We have been talking about this cycle for some time now, about loving your neighbors. It's the second greatest commandment, to love your neighbors as yourself. That means to get into the lives of your neighbors, know who they are, and love them. Treat them the way that you would expect to be treated, also known as the golden rule. And teaching them who God is through the way that we conduct our lives, through the way that we teach and instruct. We need to point people to God. I love this about one of the guys who I went to graduate school with. He wrote a book on angels, and he talked about how every other book that's ever been written is about angels. They talk about angels and who are they and what do they look like and how do they talk. And he said, but as I studied the scripture, I realized that every single occurrence of an angel in the scriptures is never about the angels. The angels always point people to God. So he wrote his book about the angels, and it was an incredible book, but that's our role as well. We point people to God. And we get people to know God and love God, which is the greatest commandment of all time. And then we move each other to serve others. That means we hold each other accountable. That means that we encourage each other to roll up our sleeves and to serve people, and then move back to loving neighbors, and we just continue this cycle. Our theme this year is becoming the hands and feet of Jesus, and our theme verses come from Matthew 25:37 through 40. Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you a drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will answer them, truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me. And so we stand here today on the faith of Christians who have gone before us, who lived out the commandments and the word of Jesus. We seek to feed people. We seek to give people a drink. By the way, I just shot off an email to Gillian at Healing Hands International, and I gave her our secured date for our Walk for Water. We have our wall back there for those who haven't been here for a while, and we're actually missing quite a few. We have a total of 7 wells that we raised money for through Healing Hands International, and we have a well in Haiti that we restored and refurbished with all brand new parts. We love to provide water for people. And that's our passion, that's our gift as a congregation. We do it really well. So we provide these things for people. And today we're talking about taking care of some of the vulnerable. And what does the scripture say about caring for the vulnerable people who are out there, specifically the orphans and the widows? Again, James says, the brother of Jesus, he says, if anyone thinks he is religious. A lot of people think they're religious, don't they? We hear a lot of people talk about how religious they are. And James, the brother of Jesus, says, if anyone thinks he's religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. I don't know about you, but it's really difficult. It's really difficult to visit people in their affliction. Specifically, orphans and widows. I've heard a lot of very heartbreaking stories. And to visit people, not when the affliction is over, because a lot of times that's what we want to do, right? We want to come in and we want to wait until people are kind of lifted up a little bit. I'm going to give you time. I'm going to give you time to grieve. I'm just going to wait a little bit until you kind of process through this grief, and then I'll be there for you. But James says that religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is to visit the orphans and widows in their affliction. You visit them while they're afflicted. And while doing that, you keep yourself unstained from the world. It is very challenging to sit with people in their affliction. There's a thing, it's a very real thing, called compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue doesn't mean that you grow tired of being compassionate. It simply means that you get fatigued from doing it. It causes you to be alert. And when you're feeling and absorbing somebody else's emotions and their pain and their sorrow and their affliction and their loneliness and their hurt and their disappointment and their poverty, you're absorbing all of that in, you begin to feel it. And it's kind of like if you're in a high-stress situation. How many of you, I've driven, probably by now, I haven't logged all of them, but probably somewhere in the ballpark of 2 million miles. I know a lot of you have driven a lot. Granny, you put the miles on. She runs the wheels off of every car that she's ever owned. Have you ever driven long trips how many of you have driven long trips in bad weather? Fog, rain, freezing rain, snow. All right, some of us. How long does it take you to get fatigued in those conditions? Like, not long, right? An hour, 2 hours, you start, your eyes start getting strained. They get dry. Why do you think your eyes dry out? Physically, your body is telling you something. You're demanding your body to do something and to be alert and to be paying attention, and you feel the weight of being a safe driver, of not getting into an accident, of not causing an accident. Under normal circumstances, we used to drive down to Arkansas all the time. This is hammered down like just stopping for gas. It was 14 and a half hours if you drove at night and you didn't have traffic in the cities. We could do it, like 950 miles thereabout. We could do it in 14 and a half hours. Don't do the math because that will probably get me in trouble. But we could do it in 14 and a half flat. And get there and still hang out with friends, and we were pretty alert if the weather was good. If the weather was bad, we could still make it, but we were absolutely exhausted. Physically, emotionally. It's difficult to do this, right? It's not complicated to sit with people in their affliction. It's not complicated, but it's difficult. So what does the Bible say about sitting with people? How about God's heart for the vulnerable? Where does God stand in all of this? Where's God's heart towards the vulnerable? Psalm 68:5 says, the father of the fatherless, this is describing God, father of the fatherless and protector of widows. Nobody light a cigarette right now, please. That was oxygen. Father of the fatherless and protector of widows is God in his holy habitation. God is the father of the fatherless. He cares for orphans. And he's the protector of widows. That's his holy habitation. What's a habitation? That's where you reside. That's your area. That's your domain. God is the father of the fatherless, the orphans, and he's the protector of widows when he's in his holy habitation. Deuteronomy 10:18, he executes justice for the fatherless and the widow, and he loves the sojourner, giving him food and clothing. This is talking about God. This is who God is. We have a big problem. I've talked about this before, but our foster system is absolutely overwhelmed. There is somewhere in the ballpark of, it's something like 108,000 eligible foster kids who are up for adoption. The majority of those will never be adopted in this country. That's just in America. That means that kids will go into adulthood never having somebody say, I want to be your parent. Hundreds of thousands of kids every single year, or over the course of a span of a few years, hundreds of thousands of kids will go into adulthood never having been adopted, never having anybody identify as a parent to that child. And yet God's heart is a protector of the fatherless. He's a father to the fatherless, and he's a protector of widows. What about the commands to care? These are commands for us, for God's people. How about Isaiah 1:17? Learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, plead the widow's cause. This is not a passive approach as Christians where we can be like, well, we're just going to pray for people. In fact, interestingly, in that same passage that we read from James, he brings that up. He says, if you pray for somebody and wish them well, that faith is absolutely useless. We can't pray for people and not step in and do something. And I think the reason that compassion fatigue is so strong is because there's such a lack of people going into the business of compassion. And I don't mean business as in like getting paid to do so. I mean, when we're in the business of compassion, we need a whole army of people doing it. And I look at our hospitals, and especially our nursing homes, the children's aid home. You want to talk about an absence of just any kind of people there to give compassion, to spend their time. These people are starved for affection. They're starved for acknowledgement. They're starved for validation. We're not frequenting these places. Christians, by we I mean Christians. Exodus 22 through 24, you shall not mistreat any widow or fatherless child. If you do mistreat them and they cry out to me, I will surely hear their cry, and my wrath will burn. And I will kill you with the sword. Do you think God is serious about this? Like, I wish God would just say what's on his mind sometimes. Right? If you mistreat any widow or you mistreat any orphan, I will hear their cry when they cry out to me, and I will kill you. That's what God says. And your wives shall become widows, and your children fatherless. You'll know what it feels like. I'll do this to your family. I'll make your wife a widow, and I'll make your kids fatherless. I will take your life if you don't have compassion for the widows and the orphans. How about Jesus and the vulnerable? I love this passage. This is in Luke chapter 7, 11 through 17. Jesus raises the widow's son. Soon afterward, he went to a town called Nain, and his disciples and a great crowd went with him. As he drew near to the gate of the town, behold, a man who had died was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. And a considerable crowd from the town was with her. And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her and said to her, do not weep. Then he came up and touched the bier, and the bearers stood still. And he said, young man, I say to you, arise. And the dead man sat up and began to speak. And Jesus gave him to his mother. Fear seized them all, and they glorified God. Didn't we literally just read that, right? Before the first song. Glorify God in your body. You were bought at a price, therefore glorify God. And this man who was raised from the dead, he glorified God, saying, a great prophet. All the people, rather, glorified God. They said, a great prophet has risen among us, and God has visited his people. And this report about him spread throughout the whole of Judea and all the surrounding country. I want to talk a little bit about Nain because this is really significant. Nain of Galilee is the only place that it's mentioned in all of the Bible. Luke chapter 7. It's not mentioned because it's not significant, or at least it wasn't. Nain is a small town, is a small village. This is actually a modern picture of Nain. This is exactly where ancient Nain sat. And if you look at Nain, how many houses does it look like sit in the little town of Nain? Maybe 100 max. This reminds me, actually, for my kids, this reminds me of The ghost town that we visited, it's about the same size. Out in Nevada, we visited a ghost town, and it was like a really cool town. We had the whole town to ourselves. We got to walk through, and the eerie fog came in, and it just was the coolest atmosphere. But Nain is about that size. It's just a small town. It's a small village. The name means beautiful or pleasant. And I think that Luke is doing a lot of things by recording this story. Luke, if you know anything about how he writes, Luke draws attention to opposites. He shows opposites a lot. So he shows these two things that are completely opposite, but then Luke takes it like this, if you picture this, and he flips them like this. He flips them upside down. So you have Nain, which means beautiful or pleasant, but you have this death, which is not beautiful or pleasant. It's actually terrible. And you have the very first miracle of a resurrection that's recorded in Luke is this one. And it brings us back to all these passages that say God is a God. He's the Father. When He's in His domain, when He's in His habitat, when He's in His holy habitat, He cares for the widows and the orphans. That's His thing. And you have Jesus, the Son of God, who walks into this small village. And I want to show on a map what it looks like, because this is really significant. So, does anybody see Nain on this map? Just real quickly. It's not a trick question. No, you don't see it on the map. I have searched and searched and searched for maps that place Nain on the map, and it's not there. You can't find it. I'm sure it exists out there somewhere, but after about 20 minutes of searching, I finally gave up. Nain is just south of Nazareth. DP, I forgot to get the pointer off of you. But if you see Nazareth kind of in the middle there, and then off to the bottom right, you see Mount Tabor. It's right by Mount Tabor, just south of Nazareth. Very small, insignificant. It's not a place that Jesus would have gone to and was like, all right, we're gonna go in and we're gonna preach to these massive crowds of people. It's a small village. But what happened is when He took this beautiful place, Nain, which means beautiful or pleasant, He took death and He conquered it, and He showed the resurrection. He also was kind of foreshadowing His own resurrection through this miracle. But He turned something not beautiful back into something beautiful in the town of beautiful or pleasant. And all the people began to glorify God. They understood it. They got it. And then they began to carry the message out all over the place through Judea and beyond. So I have two maps up here. It's kind of the same area. But you look on the one on the left, you see Galilee clear up at the top. And just down a couple towns, you see Nazareth. That's right in the ballpark of where Nain is. Where do you have to pass through, by the way, on your way back down to Judea? The blue part is Judea. It says that it spread throughout Judea and all the surrounding areas. You got to pass right through that raunchy place of Samaria. Well, actually, you wouldn't pass through it. If you were a good Jewish person, you would pass around it. You wouldn't be caught dead going through Samaria. But that's going to have significance later, because Jesus did in fact stop in Samaria, and He met a woman at the well, and it's the first time ever that Jesus identifies Himself to somebody as the Son of God, the Messiah. And the woman at the well goes and she tells everybody in town, she brings them back. And all these people believed in Jesus because of her testimony. So I show you these things and tell you these things because it's significant. It's significant when we even think that it's not significant. We're like, oh, well, I'm just doing my part. Or, well, I'll get around to it. Like, that's the worst thing you can do, is say you'll get around to it. When somebody is in their affliction, to say you'll get around to it is the worst thing. And I'm telling you, it's not easy to do. It is not easy to visit people in their affliction because all of us have our own problems. We have our own lives. We have our own busyness, our own schedules. So it's very challenging to do, but it's not complicated to do. And over and over and over again, the scriptures not only command it, but it says, if you fail to do these things and these people cry out to me, there's going to be a price to pay. Things like your faith is useless. That ought to be a wake-up call to all of us. That we need to follow and seek the heart of God. That we need to visit widows and orphans in their affliction. And I'm not saying that we need to start a ministry and, get this organized ministry and we need to do all the... I'm just saying, when you see somebody in need, reach out to them. Reach out to them in their affliction. Don't say, I'm going to wait until you get better until I reach into your life. God didn't wait until people got better. God's heart is to visit people in their affliction, to seek justice, and to care for the orphans and the widows. I leave you with that message today. And believe me, there are plenty of fatherless children out there. They're all over the place. I keep getting emails from different organizations that work with foster families within the community of Somerset. And there's a big need. And so if you're interested and you want to do something, I can put you in contact with people and you just take it and run with it. There's a tremendous need in this community. And it's heartbreaking. Spend this week in prayer and pray that God directs you to people who are in their affliction, and don't hesitate, just jump in and do it. We're all going to stand and sing a song. If there's anybody who has a prayer need or has not yet put Christ on a baptism and you're ready, we encourage you to come forward. We're all going to stand, sing us together. Jared?